are a pet-friendly studio. Hello and welcome to Fresh Perspectives. My name is Gail, and my guest today is a guy named Christopher Riedesel, and he is the owner and proprietor of the Mumpsimus used bookstore in Westfield. Thank you for coming on today, Chris. It's nice to have you on to talk about what you do. Now, you grew up in Westfield, did you?
I grew up in Westfield. I wasn't born in Westfield, but my parents were, and they moved back to Westfield when I was around 4 years old. Mm-hmm. And my twin brother and I grew up on Spring Street in Westfield.
Oh, okay. So you're locals. Let's see. I assume you went to college?
Yes, I attended University of Buffalo. I went to college for film studies, mm-hmm. and my father wanted me to do something practical. So I also got a business degree, which is now coming in handy now that I own my own business.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so you wound up going into the film business, is that correct?
Yes, I eventually moved out to Los Angeles. I wanted to work as a production manager in the film and television business. I started out as a PA, production assistant, on student films, some commercial shoots, some low budget stuff, and I worked my way up, and I eventually worked one day a piece on 2 big budget Hollywood films.
Oh.
And after seeing the whole experience of what it would look like, I thought, this is not the kind of career I want.
Oh.
And you have to be very dedicated to work in that field, whether you're in front of the camera or behind the camera. If you want to make a living at it, you really have to dedicate yourself to it.
And you didn't want to be that dedicated?
No, I mean, if you're working on shoots, the film shoots, they could be 6 days a week, 12 to 16 hours a day for 8 to 10 weeks, let's say. And then when you're done with the shoot, you're out of work, and you have to spend your time looking for your next job. Mm-hmm. So when you're working, you're all in. And when you're not working, you're looking for your next job. Mm-hmm. And I'm very much a person of routines, and I thought I need to have something that's more 9 to 5-ish, something that fits me better.
And something that you can do 5 days a week?
5 days a week, yeah.
Okay. Are you allowed to tell us what movies were the ones that you worked with?
Yes. The first one was A Cinderella Story, which starred Hilary Duff, who at that time, she may have been 17 or 18. She was like the popular girl for the boys. Mm-hmm. And the one day I worked was actually a night shoot. And the scene that was being shot was a car driving into a restaurant sign, and that sign falling into the car.
Oh, gosh.
So it was all stunt doubles and no actual name actors. Mm-hmm. So I spent the whole night telling teen boys that no, Hilary Duff is not on the set, please turn around and go home. And that was my job the entire night.
Oh my gosh. You mean they knew that she was making this movie? People that didn't work there?
People that didn't work there. And it didn't happen often. There was only a few boys that would show up. But.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, what was the other one?
The other one was a Harrison Ford movie called Hollywood Homicide.
Hollywood Homicide.
Hollywood Homicide. And I worked on the last day of reshoots for a car chase scene. So once again, stunt doubles. I didn't actually get to work with on a day where they had the name actors there. And there was a few scenes of a car chasing another car, really. And my job with a whole bunch of other PA production assistants was to put up traffic barriers and make sure random people didn't drive into the scene so there wouldn't be an accident. Oh,
okay. Well, yeah, that sounds like it must have been sort of boring for you.
That one was, yeah.
Okay, and then didn't you say you wound up working at a theater?
Yes, after 4 or 5 years of trying to work in the film business and realizing it wasn't really the best fit for me, I started looking for, again, the 9 to 5 job or something that had a more regular schedule, and I ended up getting hired by the City of Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs to look after their performing arts venues as rental facilities. So the city of Los Angeles had, through various means, inherited 8 theaters to either preserve them for historic reasons or to make them available for community use. And so I was one of the people that made sure that they were open to the public, that they were maintained, that they were accrued for the productions that wanted to come in. And I did that for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my job for many years. And then at a certain point, as happens with city government, their budget changed. The leaders were interested in funding changed, or what their goals were changed, and so I was moved to a different division where I managed a grant program that provided grant funding for artists and nonprofit arts organizations. So instead of interacting with just the theater community, I then became involved with a broad swath of Los Angeles artistic community, which was fascinating. So I got to know a lot of dancers, painters, writers, any kind of artist. I got to know the broad community. And then later on, I moved back to managing theaters for the city of LA. So throughout my time, I managed 3 different theater venues. And for those who are familiar with Los Angeles, one was the LA Theater Center, which is in downtown LA. One is the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center, which is the southern part of LA. Both of those are now being run, or at least when I left, they were being run by nonprofit arts organizations in contract with the Department of Cultural Affairs to make sure they're active. And the last one that I managed was the Madrid Theater, which was in Canoga Park, which is in the San Fernando Valley, the northern part of the city of Los Angeles.
Okay. Well, that sounded like, well, if you did that for quite a lot of years, you probably did enjoy that.
Yes, I did, yeah.
And then somehow you wound up having to stop doing that?
Well, as is common, COVID was a big game changer for me.
Oh, okay.
At the same time, coincidentally, the city of LA had finally, the Department of Cultural Affairs had finally lined up funding and resources to get majorly needed major renovations done for each of the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
So they were closing down the Madrid Theater, among the other theaters, for renovations. And I thought they were going to put me in a job, which I may or may not like.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what that's going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also began thinking of finances. And as much as I enjoyed the job that I was doing, or may be doing in the future, I don't know what they would have had me do, I realized that even if I stayed all the way through my retirement, I wouldn't be able to retire in the city of LA. I just couldn't financially do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I began to think, well, what am I going to do for the next stage in my professional career? And as it happened, I had acquired a collection of 15,000 vintage paperbacks.
Wow.
From 2 brothers. Mm-hmm. Their father had wanted to start a bookstore, and he passed away, and these 2 brothers had a company pouring concrete. They weren't interested in books, but they honored their father's legacy, and they kept these books for a long time, and they just got tired of it, and they said, we can't afford the expenses of storing all these books.
Mm-hmm.
And they put a posting on Craigslist, which I happened to see, made them an offer, and they accepted it. And all of a sudden, I had all these books. So at the same time, I'm thinking about leaving LA, and I'm thinking, when am I going to move? And I've got all these books, and I thought, well, I can move back to my hometown and start a bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did. I pretty much got rid of everything that I owned except for my books
Mm-hmm.
and my dog. And then,
Oh, you can't get rid of the
Yeah.
dog. No. That's nice. I mean, dogs get attached to the people that they live with, and it breaks their hearts if
yeah,
you have to put them in a shelter or something. So you had to bring the dog.
I had to bring her.
definitely.
Yeah.
What kind of dog did you have?
I still have her. Her name is Lucy. I should have brought her.
Yes,
but
yes.
She didn't want to come along today. Saturdays are her day off. She usually goes to the store with me every day,
Uh-huh.
except for Saturdays, which she spends at home. So
And
apparently she's under
it's
weekly
such a
schedule.
habit for her
Yeah.
that she's not going to let you make her do
Right.
something on her day off.
But she looks like a miniature border collie,
Oh,
but she's
I love-
actually a mutt.
I really love the Shelties. They are so adorable, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
And smart and
Yeah.
nice.
Well, she's nice with me, and she's smart enough to get her way. So,
She's got you wrapped around her little
Yes, she
finger.
does.
Okay. Okay, well, just for future reference, if I should decide to have you come on again, Lucy is welcome to come with you. How old is she?
she is 15 and a half.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's still doing very well. Her eyesight is not as good as it used to be, but she still gets around well. And the one thing she doesn't do anymore is jump.
On
So-
people?
Jump onto the couch or jump into or out of a car. I have to lift her up and
Oh,
take her
I
down.
see. Yeah. Because my husband and I have always had really big dogs. And there were a couple that we managed to train them not to jump on us. You know, I mean, really big dogs. But they couldn't seem to get it through their head that what applied to the two of us applied to visitors that came by the house. And you just can't have your animals jumping on people somehow.
Yeah.
They can be awfully stubborn about it. Okay, let's see. Okay, you acquired a collection of books and you decided to move back here to open the used bookstore. Now, you call your bookstore Mumpsimus. How did you pick the name?
It is an old word. A friend who knows 5 languages introduced this word to me. He was actually a director, and he was a person that I helped I produced his student films. That was one of we stayed in touch. And at one point we were talking about favorite words. And this was one of his favorite words, Mumpsimus. It's an old word that means someone with a bad habit who refuses to change even when corrected. And the way the word came about was, like, this was around the 1500s. There was a Catholic priest, when doing the Mass, which was in Latin at the time, you would get to the part of the Mass where you were supposed to say the word Sumpsimus.
Sumpsimus.
Sumpsimus. I don't know what Sumpsimus means, but he would use the word Mumpsimus. And no one could get him to correct that. So
Okay.
it became a byword for someone who refused to change, even when corrected.
Kind of a stubborn person then. And so you decided you would open your bookstore in Westfield. Now you get to be close to family, right?
Yes, I do.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, so you get to see them all the time. When you were living in California, you hardly ever saw your family.
I hardly ever did. I did have a cousin who moved to San Diego and then moved up to Portland. So I would see her once in a while, but that was about it. I would come back once a year, and my brother would come visit me once a year. So that'd be about it.
I bet your family's glad to have you back.
Oh,
here.
they're thrilled.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay. And do you have a website that
do.
you can tell the viewing audience what it is so they know where to look for it?
The website is mumpsimusbooks.com. It's Mumpsimus books.com.
Okay. And tell the viewing audience, for those who don't know, how they can find your bookstore if they're in Westfield.
If they're in Westfield, my address is 53 East Main Street. So it's located right in downtown Westfield, right on the center of the main drive there. But here's the tricky part. I'm in the back half of the first floor of a building. The front half is occupied by Span and Span attorneys. So you see the Span and Span attorney sign on the window. If you look at the door, you see a little sign that says Mumpsimus. And it's right next to Market Street. And there's a side entrance on Market Street which leads directly into my store.
Probably the attorneys prefer that your customers come in that side door then?
They haven't specified.
They haven't specified, but you'd kind of like to encourage people to come in that door.
Yeah, and there's Market Street, and on the other side of Market Street is Full Strength Coffee.
Right, right.
And so we like to encourage people to come for coffee and buy a book. So.
Yes, and then there's the Calarco's restaurant on Market Street also.
Definitely.
So that seems to be popular with a lot of people, and it's been there for a bunch of generations.
3 generations, almost 100 years now.
Mm-hmm. So, so anyway, I've met a friend of mine a couple of times there. Over all of the years, I've only eaten there 3 times. Once with relatives from my husband's side of the family, and twice with a friend of mine that I've met there. She likes that place. But so anyways, basically it's kind of like your shop is on Market Street in a way, because it's around the corner from the front of the store.
That's a good way to say it, yeah.
So it's kind of like on the corner, or it's kind of like, I guess you could say, well, that's a mailing address if you get mail there, is Main Street. But technically, your door is on Market Street.
That is correct.
Okay. Let's see. We can talk about the books now. You've brought a box full of books with you.
A wide variety of books here to show off the kind of things I have. These are many of the older books I have, but I do have newer books. But I thought it'd be more fun to talk about the older books I have, and each one has sort of a different story to it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I started out with was vintage paperback. So I'll start out with those here. My favorite thing, science fiction, fantasy. So I've got a lot of science fiction and fantasy in my store. These are Avon paperbacks.
Avon?
Avon.
Was that connected to the cosmetic company?
I don't really know. There were the major publishers for paperbacks at the time were Avon, Bantam, and Pocketbook, and there are a few others, but those were the big 3. And each tried to do, and there's Ballantine as well, which came on later, but they each had, the big genres were romance, mystery, and then science fiction was a growing thing at the time. But what collectors like to look for in vintage paperbacks is they look for beautiful covers, spines that don't have creases here. So this is a book that a collector, I would think, would love to have. This was a very popular story at the time, The Princess
of the Atom.
Of the Atom. It's about a guy who shrinks down to beyond microscopic size and finds a kingdom there and falls in love with the princess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Also, another Avon fantasy book, or science fiction book, is by Jack Williamson, who is famous for, actually I'm thinking another author, but Jack Williamson was he was popular for a long time for his sci-fi. But this is one of his lesser known titles, The Green Girl. And this is typical of sci-fi at the time. They really tried to play up the Cheesecake Factor and aliens with naked or near naked ladies.
Okay, so her skin was actually green.
Yeah, I don't know the actual story for this one, or what the narrative is, but
you haven't read it then.
I haven't read it. But as a great advertising here, Black Doom, Purple Terror, Green Beauty. So. And moving along with paperbacks, I'm going to show you, actually I'm going to switch over to here and I'll get to that one. I've got a variety of these here. Another paperback publisher was a company called Ace. And they became famous for what are called Ace doubles. These are books.
Okay.
These are books that don't have a back. They have 2 front covers.
Oh, okay. So it's two books in one.
2 books in one. Then you read through one story, and you get to the middle, and you reach the end of the other.
Uh-huh.
So, but you flip it over, and you start the second book. So you get 2 books in one. And so they had a lot of these doubles in Westerns. I've got a couple Westerns here. I'll show these here, and then these right here. They also had these in mystery, and they really liked lurid titles, lurid covers. Again, these were sold as pulp, cheap entertainment, so they really tried to...
Scream Street and...
So we have Mistress of Horror House. And then we have Drink with the Dead and Stranglehold.
Oh, good grief.
There's no subtlety with their marketing their titles. And there were also, famously, science fiction doubles. And these had interesting covers, but I brought one that had two fantasy titles. This is The Sword of Rhiannon by, let's see here, Lee Brackett, who was one of the few female science fiction authors at the time.
Oh, okay.
And she was a big inspiration for Ray Bradbury. And he wrote Fahrenheit 451.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
I'm always fascinated by the fact that she was a mentor to him, she was a big inspiration for him, and when I put books up alphabetically by author on the shelf, Bradbury follows Brackett. So
oh, okay.
Just an interesting coincidence.
Oh, yeah.
But this paperback, this ace double, is very
Conan
collectible.
the Conqueror.
Because Conan the Barbarian, this is his first appearance in a paperback book.
Okay.
And he was created by the author Robert E. Howard. He is a tentpole of the fantasy genre. You've got Conan the Barbarian, you've got Lord of the Rings. He is, so this was one of the fathers of sword and sorcery type fantasy, was Robert E. Howard with his character Conan the Barbarian. Conan the Barbarian appeared in pulp magazines before this, and he appeared in some hardcovers published by a publisher called Gnome Press.
Yeah, I've never, did somebody ever make a movie about
Yes,
Conan the Barbarian?
it's been made into a movie twice, once famously with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Mm-hmm. Was Arnold Schwarzenegger the barbarian?
He was the barbarian, yes. And then there were two movies that were made with him as Conan the Barbarian, and there was a third movie in the series with Red Sonja where he appears, but he's a character with a different name. Later on, there was another movie made with Jason Momoa, who action star nowadays.
I guess I haven't heard of him so
It was a
far.
flop.
It was?
It wasn't as successful as the one with Conan with Arnold Schwarzenegger. But yeah, and this appearance of Conan the Barbarian maintained his popularity, and then he was published by other publishers, and he's still popular to this day.
Oh, okay. And is somebody still writing books about this character?
Yeah, I mean, most of the stories nowadays, they're reprints of earlier stories, but I'd have to see if there are new authors still writing about him. I know as of like early 2000s, there were new stories involving him. Robert Jordan, who was a famous fantasy writer, he did The Wheel of Time. He wrote a couple Conan stories, but I don't know if there are any new ones that are coming out or not. I'd have to look.
We'll find out, won't we?
We'll find out. Another interesting group of paperbacks, there's a publisher called Dell. They did a lot of magazine publishing. They did crossword puzzles.
Yeah, I've heard of that company,
But
yeah.
Dell had a type of paperback. You would see a keyhole on the front, but they were called mapbacks because you can see here,
They'd have a map on the back.
there's a little map on the back
cover.
that shows where all the action is taking place for the story. So I've got a few different mapbacks here to show. This is a collection it's an anthology of collected stories, supposedly collected by Alfred Hitchcock, but I'm sure it was a licensing agreement where they used his name and both benefited financially.
Oh, okay.
But again, they really like to do covers that would attract the buyer. So,
Midsummer Nightmare.
Midsummer Nightmare with the figure of death on the front. But again, you have your map on the back showing you where the mystery is going to take place. And then they also had general fiction that they also did, and they had romance stories, which were also mapbacks, like this one. This is a naval adventure, The Gaunt Woman, which is actually the name of the ship.
Oh, okay. It's not an actual woman.
Yeah. And it has a map of the naval setting for the book. So, yeah. The most famous, I don't know about the mapbacks. I'm thinking of something else. But with I don't know if there's the most famous mapback. But there is, if you're looking for ace doubles, the most famous ace double has one story called Junkie.
Junkie?
Junkie, which was written by William Burroughs. And he was famous for writing Naked Lunch. But it was about, Junkie was about drugs and addiction. So,
oh, probably, yeah.
So it wasn't considered high literature at the time, but nowadays it's a classic. And if you can find that one's worth a lot of money.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some more interesting paperbacks. Another genre that became popular in the 60s was Gothic romance.
Oh, Gothic romance.
Gothic romance. And this was inspired by books like Jane Eyre, Wuthering Heights, where it's romance with people who are usually involved women who have been in dire straits, who fall in love with a wealthy man who lives in an isolated mansion. So you get covers.
Okay. Yeah.
It's famously called Women Running from Houses, because all the covers for these involve usually women at nighttime running from an ominously large house, usually under a full moon.
Oh, gosh.
So, like, here's another example: A Shriek in the Midnight Tower. So.
A Shriek in the Midnight Tower.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're usually wearing these like very voluminous nightgowns, and that was popular. That was a genre that was popular through the mid '70s, but you don't see much of it anymore.
Well, that was a pretty interesting history you just told of paperbacks.
Yeah, but when I started a bookstore, I realized that not everyone would be interested in or paperbacks.
Right,
so I
right.
started adding a collection, other different collections that I thought people might be interested in, and some have proven popular, like old cookbooks. And this is an old Betty Crocker cookbook. It's her picture cookbook. This has
pictures of what the recipes look like when they're finished.
Yeah, it's a 3-ring binder or 5-ring binder here. But what I've discovered when it comes to vintage cookbooks, people are drawn to the cookbooks that their mothers or grandmothers used.
Oh.
So it's really about bringing back the memories of their childhood kitchens.
Yeah, well, I've got to tell you, Christopher, that I am not attracted to the recipe books for my mother and grandmother because in my adult life, I have become a vegan. Oh. So I only use recipe books that use only plant-based ingredients. So I'm I've always been different anyway. So.
You'll find a lot of recipes for very non-vegan things, like meatloaf.
You can take, once you know what the substitutes are, you can take old recipes, though, and make those changes. And they usually turn out okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So among other things I've added is I have a small section of poetry, and I found that when it comes to poetry books, especially older poetry books, all of these are from the late 1800s to the early 1900s. They tended to make them pretty to look at as well.
Yeah, that is very pretty, so with flowers on the front. Yeah,
so this
that's
is,
really nice.
Tennyson. Let's see here, Lord Tennyson, Alfred Lord Tennyson. Mm-hmm. This is Idylls of the King. And they tended to be in a smaller size, because poetry didn't take up as much space as
a novel. Yeah.
So these they would make these pretty, and then you could carry them in a pocket or something like that.
Did any of them write books of poetry where the poem was the entire book? like a really long poem?
Yeah, I mean, there are some like that. The more often than not, they were collections of poems.
Mm-hmm.
But once in a while, there'd be, like this, Idylls of the King, it's a grouping of poems about legends of King Arthur.
Oh, okay.
So it is one full book, but each poem deals with a different Arthurian legend. And then here's a leather-bound book with, this is called Gilt here, when it has the gold decoration. Some lovely decoration here. And some books, if you can see, this has gilt on the top edge.
I see that.
And sometimes you get some super fancy books where it's gilt all around.
All the way around.
And I don't know, I'm sure they did it for decorative purposes, but it also turned out to be a very good protection from insects. Because you never find insect like bookworms, they never burrow through the gilt.
Yeah.
So it actually ended up protecting books.
I've had people show me books that had been chewed on, and I've had the people tell me it was silverfish that did it. Those kind of bugs called silverfish.
Yeah. So the things you want to protect your books from, if you have old books, generally are you want to protect them from the light, from dust, from insects, from rodents, and from big ranges in temperature and humidity.
Oh, okay.
So just if anyone was curious.
They can probably get pretty moldy, can't they?
They can be if it's in a moist area.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
No, no, you don't.
But this is a collection, another collection of Tennyson poems with a nice fancy binding. And this is from the 1880s, and look how nice that is.
Yeah, I mean, those pages aren't even yellowed.
No. It has to do with the quality of the paper. Up until a certain point in time, and I think it was like the 1840s or 1850s, paper was made mostly with cloth.
Oh.
And around the 1840s or 50s, they introduced wood pulp.
Oh, okay.
And wood pulp, due to its chemical makeup, will disintegrate over time.
Oh, okay.
Here's a newer, this is from the early 1920s? Let's see here. No, it's 1898 again. This is a first edition of this particular poet. I'm unfamiliar with him.
What's the name?
Richard Hovey. You learn a lot as a bookseller because there's so many authors. You only know some of them, and then you learn of them as you acquire the books.
When you have a lot of books that you're working with.
Yeah. So this is a beautiful gilt cover. Along the Trail is the name of this collection of poems, and this is a first edition. But it was also a library book, so you have a library card.
Oh, yes. You know, you'll find a lot of library books at the used book sales at the libraries because for some reason or other, they will decide that maybe not people aren't borrowing a book enough, or I don't know what the reasons are, but you will quite often find something that was a library book at the library book sales.
Definitely, yeah. Because they're cleaning out their inventory, and their job as a library is to have books that people are interested in reading. So out with the old and with the new, essentially, for libraries. But bookstores are different. We like to find books that people find interesting, and hopefully people will pay for them. And sometimes I have stuff in my inventory that I find interesting, and hopefully someone out there finds interesting as well. I've got a small collection of travel guides from the 1800s. This is the Pocket Guide for Europe.
Oh.
If you're an avid traveler in the year of, let's see if I can find it, 1888.
1888.
This was your travel guide to Europe in 1888. I think it's mostly Western Europe. But yeah. And then there are other travel guides, like the Handbook of Washington, if you wanted to go to Washington.
The state of Washington or Washington, D.C.?
Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And some of these, like this one right here, had a map that would fold out. is much bigger than the book itself.
Wow.
You can get it pulled out safely. There we go.
Oh.
There you go, Washington,
that is
D.C.
interesting. Yeah.
So for collectors, if you find a book with a map still a part of it, that'll be more valuable, more pricey than a book without a map.
Oh, okay.
Because it wasn't uncommon for a person to separate the map so they could look at the map while they're looking through the book.
Okay.
And then here's one for New York City.
Oh, does that one have a map too?
It has a map, but not
a complete one?
not a complete one. It doesn't have a map of, I don't think the original map for the city is not in here, but this is a map for the area. See if I can, oh, here we go. It's like this. This is a map of Hudson River. It opens up like this. Look at that. I can show the camera here. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, but of the city itself, that map is missing, so. Which is unfortunate, but like I said, happens sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I just have really oddball books like Home Taxidermy for Pleasure and Profit. This is a book I have a small shelf next to my checkout area where I've got odd books like this where if it catches people's attention, they might buy it. So that's my. And then I have a collection I have a lot of kids' books.
Yes,
And
yes.
so I brought some favorites here, like this one always gets a lot of people's attention. The Little Engine That Could.
Oh, yeah.
And this is what the first edition of this story looked like.
Yeah.
This is not a true first edition. This came out maybe a few years later. But this is the original Little Engine That Could. It was illustrated by a woman named Lois Lenski, who became famous for her illustration for children's books. So, But yeah, there we go. I have a little treasure here. This is the very first
Adventures of Mickey Mouse.
book of Mickey Mouse.
The first book about Mickey Mouse.
It's the very first book issued by Walt Disney.
Oh.
This came out in 1931, and it's Mickey Mouse and his friends, and they all live in a barn.
Oh, they all live in a barn.
They all live in a farm.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting about this book, it has the very first mention of Donald Duck. He's mentioned in the book by once, but he's also pictured on the back. And I'm going to show you the picture. He doesn't look like the Donald Duck of today. This is the original Donald Duck.
Oh,
take a look there.
oh my goodness.
He's actually wearing pants. He doesn't wear pants nowadays, but.
That is different, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I have some older books. This comes from I think it's 1889, or it's the late 1880s. This is called The Vegeman's Revenge.
The Vegeman's Revenge.
The Vegeman's Revenge. It's about a little girl who has a nightmare that vegetables cook her and eat her for a meal.
Oh.
And it's all written in verse form. The writer was the illustrator's mother, but the books were created by the illustrator, so they worked together.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Florence K. Upton would create the book, and her mother would write the poems that would go with the pictures. And she was the illustrator, this Florence K. Upton. So this is a very strange book.
It sounds like it. I remember when I was a little girl, very early elementary school, I remember we would go up to the school library up on the second floor once a week.
Mm-hmm.
We'd go up and the librarian would read a book to us. And she had some books that were about somebody named Mrs. Pigglewiggle.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you remember those?
Well, I've had people ask for those books, and they're, people still remember those fondly.
Have you ever had any then in your shop?
I had one once, and it sold quickly.
Oh, I can imagine it probably did. It had to do with Mrs. Pigglewiggle was somebody that the family, it would be something about a behavior problem or something that Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle would have to come in and help the kid learn how to behave better.
Yeah.
I remember, the one that I remember is the little girl would never bathe.
Yep.
You know, and supposedly she had such a thick layer of dirt on her skin that Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle had the mother plant seeds on her face, and one morning the little girl had stuff growing out of the dirt on her face when she woke up in the morning. So that was what got her to start washing. So it was funny. So
trying to imagine what the seeds were. They seeds for flowers, or
I'm not sure if they were for vegetables or flowers. Probably one of those two things.
We'll have to find the book and find out. So
Nutshell Library.
Nutshell Library. This is a collection of 4 small books by Maurice Sendak. He is famous for the next work which he would create, which was Where the Wild Things Are. This came out just before that. And each book is a separate tale, written and illustrated by Maurice Sendak.
That one's called Pierre.
This one is called Pierre. A story with a moral air about Pierre, who learned to care. Mm-hmm. So they all seem to see Pierre, a cautionary title in 5 chapters and a prologue. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I have a second little collection like this at my store. It's called Pooh's Pot of Honey, and it has 4 little volumes like this, and each one is a separate story about Winnie the Pooh or one of his friends. So you have your little collection there. I'll skip this one for a moment. This was a popular style of book for kids in 19-teens, 20s, maybe up to the early 30s. I think it sort of ended when the Depression came in. But books for children would be published in this large format, and they would be lavishly illustrated. There were a few famous illustrators that collectors liked, and they made, this particular illustrator is N.C. Wyeth, who he illustrated a lot of books for the youth audience. This is The Boy's King Arthur, but he most famously did Treasure Island. He did wonderful illustrations for Treasure Island. But he also did The Deer Slayer, trying to think of what else, Kidnapped. A lot of books that people thought boys might like to read. And he made these wonderful paintings. And not only did you have the color illustration there, but you had illustrations here. These are called the end papers that cover the back of the cover and form the very first page here. And you'd have these wonderful artwork here. And then you would have like 8 or so illustrations throughout, maybe up to 12 with illustrations
Very
like this.
colorful.
Very colorful. And this was a popular format for books for young readers, or younger teen readers, I would say, at that time period. Another example is this one right here, The Little Lame Prince. And the illustrator here is Jessie Wilcox, she was one of a handful of women illustrators who were very well known and popular at the time. This book consists of 2 stories, The Little Lame Prince and Adventures of a Brownie. They were both by the Smiths Mulock, and these 2 stories were very popular at the time. I have a few different copies of Adventures of a Brownie. This is my only copy of Little Lame Prince, but if you look at books from that time period, there were a lot of different printings of those 2 stories.
The Adventures of a Brownie, would that have anything to do with being the first stage of Girl Scouts?
No, a brownie was like a little fairy figure.
Oh, a fairy figure.
A mischievous fairy figure who caused trouble.
Oh, okay. I never heard of those.
Yeah. Then moving back to, this is a copy of Grimm's Fairy Tales, and this came out, let's see if I can find the year, I don't see your year on here, but according to my research, when I picked up this book, this was the translation that brought the full collection of Grimm's Tales to the English language for the very first time.
Okay, so originally it was in a different language then?
They were German. They were German fairy tales collected by two German brothers, the Grimm brothers.
The Grimm brothers.
That's why they're called Grimm's fairy tales. And they collected these folk tales from all around Germany and published them, and this is the first English language publication.
Okay. So that's quite an old book then.
It's from the late 1800s, 1880, 1890. But it had stories like Hansel and Gretel, the Town Musicians of Bremen, which is about animal musicians. They're some of the more famous ones from the Grimm's fairy tales. But there's a whole lot here that I've never heard of before, like the story of the men who went out to learn to shudder, as in to be afraid.
The man that went out and learned how to shudder?
To shudder, yeah. Shudder with fear.
So he was fearless before that, was he?
Apparently. This Grimm's fairy tales is where the Princess and the Frog comes from.
Oh, yeah.
But I think here it's called The Frog King. That's the very first tale in the book. But yet also things like The Giant and the Tailor, and other famous and unknown fairy tales that we don't really know about. But so yeah, that was a collection of folk tales there. I brought down here, I also have a collection of books that have local interest.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I have books about local history. Like in my store, I've got a book about the early history of Ellicott. There are books about Chautauqua Lake, Chautauqua Institution. This particular book, I kind of included with local history, but it's about grape culture and winemaking. So anyone who's interested in grapes, this is an interesting document about how they thought the best way to grow grapes way back in the 1860s. This is from 1862. And again, showing you the quality of the pages.
Oh my gosh, yes, they are white, aren't they?
They are white.
There is a little bit of a stain, a couple of stains on the page.
And there's a name for that. This is called foxing.
Foxing?
Foxing, and that's just the browning. That's where there's little imperfections in the paper itself.
Oh, is that right?
And that's where the paper ages differently. Like here, you can see it's more prominent.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And that's called foxing. But this is all about how to grow grapes, and it was written in 1862. And this one right here, Fenner's Working Formulae. This was actually published in Westfield, and I haven't figured out where in Westfield, but it has Westfield, New York as its place of publication. Here you go. This was published in 1886. This was the guidebook. This was a very popular leading guidebook for pharmacists at the time to compound medicines. So this gave formulas to create the medicines that the customers would come and buy for whatever they wanted, like for headaches or colds or whatever. This was the recipe book they used, and this was popular throughout the U.S. And this is not the first printing, but it's a very early printing of Fenner's Formulae. So I do a few other local interest books like that, but this is probably the only one I have that was printed in Westfield itself.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I do have another one, but it's a book of poems.
That's a book of poems.
Book of poems.
Okay, not about pharmaceuticals.
No, just poems.
Yeah, compounding medications is sort of making a comeback. You hear about, this doesn't have to do with a bookstore, but people who need, some people have to have doses that are not, one of the ordinary dosage. I guess I shouldn't be trying to describe it.
I don't know anything about pharmacies beyond, beyond this book here, but.
Okay. Sometimes I throw things in there that don't have anything to do with the subject. And you've got another book laying over here.
Yeah. So I have quite a few books from the 1910s, through the 1930s. There's a lot of popular fiction written at that time, which it's gone forgotten. The authors are forgotten, the stories are forgotten. They just don't know about it because people read the newer books. They read, and so these kind of fall to the wayside of history. And I like to have them in my store, especially if they have the old dust jackets, because you have this interesting artwork.
Yeah, you know, that picture on the front reminds me of some of the old movies from that era. The way people used to dress in those movies.
It shows the fashion, or what was considered high fashion at the time. And this is also documents why it's so difficult to find books with dust jackets, because they're very fragile. This one's coming apart. I've got a protective wrapper that I put it in when I have it on display. But dust jackets didn't really survive. So most books from those era by authors who've been forgotten, they'll be priced at like $4 to $8. So I mean, just as an example. But if you have a dust jacket, people are going to charge more for them just because they didn't survive.
The dust jacket is still there,
Yeah. And I have another example, a different example of a more famous title.
Dracula.
This is Dracula. Dracula came out in like 1897 or something, 1896, something like that. This edition came out to help promote the movie Dracula starring Bela Lugosi. So and this is called a photoplay edition. So in addition to promoting the movie on the front here, they also had, so I can find them here, they had images from the movie itself. So there should be something up front. Here we go. Here, this is Bela Lugosi as Count Dracula himself.
Yeah.
And these were called photoplay editions, because photoplay was the word they used it was an old word they used for movies at the time.
Oh, yeah.
This is a very highly sought after dust jacket, but unfortunately, this dust jacket was preserved by someone. If I can peel it off here. They laminated it, which protected it from time, but to a collector who's a purist,
They wouldn't be interested in it just because it was laminated?
because it's been altered, yeah. So, but there are very few, so I'd like to have on hand just in case there's a collector who's interested in it. And this is what the book looks like without the dust jacket. It's kind of a little bit plain,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I know. I think the Frankenstein story was actually written by a woman. I was kind of surprised when I first learned that.
yeah, it was written by a woman named Mary Shelley. She was only 17 or 18 at the time, and she had written it as part of a writing contest. She was with her husband, the poet Percy Shelley, and two others, and they were somewhere in Europe on a trip somewhere, and
They started telling ghost stories.
essentially, yeah.
Yeah, and she told the scariest one.
She did, yep. And it's still scaring
And it's
people
been
to
a
this day.
famous story ever since.
Yeah.
Did you see the one that, did you see the version that Mel Brooks made of it?
Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, yeah. That was, Mel Brooks could make a comedy out of anything, I think, you know. So, do you have any more books still?
I have two more books.
2 more books?
We'll start with the newest book that I brought here,
A Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. This is a fantasy book by George R. R. Martin, and it became very popular when HBO came out with a TV series about it.
Yeah.
And this is the very first book in the series, and this is the first printing of the book. Back when people didn't realize it was going to be a thing. So there aren't that too many of these around. So this is one of the more valuable books in my store. But again, it has a beautiful dust jacket, which collectors like. And there are very few. It looks like just a beautiful book. I do have one more book. This is one of my favorite books in the store.
Watership Down.
Watership Down. This is a story of rabbits. This was published in 1972. It's been turned into an animated film and an animated TV series. But Watership, this was the very first printing. This was the first edition with a dust jacket, which is rare. But it also has a couple other things which I find interesting. It has a little gilt decoration of little bunnies right here.
That is nice.
And just on the front right there. And this is gilt. That's when you have gold lettering. It's called gilt. And I picked this book up. I went to an estate sale in Fredonia, and it came from a house of a professor who had passed away. And the family had set aside one room, and they turned it into a library. And in the library, they had their own card catalog system, so they knew which member of the family had the book. And this apparently belonged to their child, because she doodled in here.
Oh.
I'm assuming this is the name of her cat, Fudge. And she wrote in here, "My best book," little exclamation point. So it's a nice little personal touch to a book.
Oh, yeah.
There are collectors who don't like anything in a book, but I like little things like that, little personalizations in there, because it gives...
Some people like it if it's signed by the author.
Yeah. So this each book has its own life, and you can tell this book was very well loved.
Have you ever thought of writing a book yourself?
I have, but I haven't, so...
You thought about it, but you haven't actually done it.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to say it, because this has been such an interesting conversation about all these books, but we've come to the end of another episode of Fresh Perspectives. The hour is over already. And thank you so much for appearing on Fresh Perspectives today. I'm sure the viewing audience has learned quite a bit from you.
Well, my pleasure being here, and I'm always excited to talk about books, whether it's here or at my store.
Okay.
Anywhere you might run into me on the street.
I'll see those of you in the viewing audience when I do the next episode.